Hello and a very warm welcome to Innovating India, the only show that gets you all the interesting innovation that's happening in the country. Today we have with us Greg Maron, founder and CEO of Zoom Car India Private Limited. Well, Greg's been instrumental in introducing the concept of car rentals in India, and he did that way back in 2013. Thank you very much, Greg, for joining us. Very intrigued, you dropped out of business school in California. You packed your
Mm,
bags and you moved to Bangalore. So how does that,
right.
how did that work out? What was the thought process? Why couldn't you wait for another year to start out your own, your own startup? And what's the thought process behind Zoomcar?
Sure. Well, yeah, my parents asked me the same question actually. So I think for me, it was more just kind of striking while the iron was hot. We felt that if we waited an extra year, we might actually miss out on the opportunity. We had a lot of momentum on the ground at that point. We saw a lot of velocity, a lot of interest building, and we felt that that was the right time and we didn't want to wait. We had also raised a little bit of money. We put in a lot of personal money, spent a lot of time there. So we felt that that was really the time, place to go and jump headlong.
Okay, it's ironic that you moved from the United States to India to start out when a lot of Indian startups choose to register or choose to just build something in other countries because they feel
Right.
it's just so much harder to do business here. So, what is it that made you zero down on India, and why did you choose India to build your company?
Sure. Well, I think for me personally, prior to starting Zoomcar, I had 2 to 3 years of experience working in India in the renewable energy clean tech space. So I saw a huge opportunity on the environmental side of things. And on one hand, then I also realized though that the consumer story was going to be the really powerful one. And if you could build a direct to consumer business where you could actually combine these sort of sustainability elements, and that was going to be most impactful. And so we saw transportation was a wide open space, was a blue ocean, and it was really unstructured and really everything was offline at that point. So we wanted to combine the environmental elements and those attributes with something consumer facing, and we felt transportation was the best way to do that. And personal mobility, which was going to really, we feel, and we continue to believe, that's ultimately the future, for the country.
Okay, so how's the experience been? How daunting or how difficult has it been? Because I speak to founders all the time and they tell me horror stories about starting out in India. Simply registering a company is a huge challenge. So how did you manage to navigate through, the maze of compliances that come with starting out a business in India?
Well, we've been at it for a while. I mean, 2012, 2013, 14, when we were kind of getting underway. It's, I think, a lot better today in 2020 than it was then. But, I think the biggest challenge was that the process itself is fairly elongated. And there was not, at that point, there was not a lot of transparency and visibility. So the communication in that process was not great. So that did make it a little tricky. And especially since we were remote, I was actually at that point still living in the US. So managing all of that from a remote location, thousands and thousands of kilometers away, was definitely not easy. So I'd say that was the hardest part by far. I think once you got on the ground and shifted and actually moved here, it became a lot easier.
Okay. Now with COVID-19, it's probably, I mean, it's a huge disruptive force. People are going to be apprehensive about renting cars. How are you planning to use this as an opportunity to pivot your business model?
Right. Well, so I would just to take a step back. I would say we haven't really pivoted our business model at all, and I don't really subscribe to that view, especially when our core product offering is so robust. And so, we going into the pandemic, we had two core products. One was a short-term rental product, which was an hourly daily product, and then the second product was a longer-term subscription, which was anything from 1 month all the way up to 36 months. So we had these two product offerings. They sort of feed off each other because we would allow our subscribers to actually share back the vehicle when they were not using it, and then that vehicle would get put back onto the rental platform. So we had sort of one vehicle being used across both of those use cases in both of those products. And so again, that was really the key innovation that we brought to the table overall. And so that is something which we will continue to do going ahead. Now, as opposed to sort of the quotient, the notion of pivoting, which we really haven't done as such, it's actually been for us over the next sort of call it 6 to 12 months. It's going to be all about how do you scale supply faster, and so the one way we're doing that is by unlocking our B2B enterprise SaaS product directly to OEMs, directly to dealer distributors and mobility operators. And it's called ZMS, Zoom Car Mobility Services. So our enterprise SaaS product is really twofold. One part is subscription as a service, where we're actually offering up our subscription software to these partners. And that's going to give us that next wave of growth. And it creates this really positive flywheel. The second part of it is offering up our IoT, our connectivity as a software service, and allowing other operators and players to use that. And that's in terms of driver scoring, real-time health monitoring, vehicle sense testing, as well as the ability to get in and out of the vehicle. So from a remote location, then through your phone. So all of those capabilities are very core. And that's something which we're also providing as well on a go-ahead basis. And so now COVID, I would say, helped accelerate a number of those plans as it related to the software side. So that's really important to think as we go and scale.
That's interesting. So, do you think India offers a good ecosystem for better adaptation of Internet of Things into your business? How do you see that as an opportunity?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, IoT for us is actually one of the biggest areas of investment, and it has been, in fact, since the beginning. Really over the last 5 years, we've continuously doubled down, invested over there as it relates to the hardware side as well as the software side. Our competencies really sit with software and firmware, and then data science layering and applications. So we're not really a hardware company per se, for sure. So we work with hardware providers, and they can help us to have innovations over there on that side. But for us, it's really the secret sauce is really all about the software and making sure that the use cases are getting served to the absolute best.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Greg. Lovely talking to you, and we wish you the very best.